Spring 1985. A diving instructor named Kihachiro Aratake descends into the blue waters off the coast of Okinawa. He has made this dive hundreds of times before, for tourists, for postcards, for the quiet pleasure of floating above the reef. But this day is different. At around 25 meters down, he stops. A massive stone structure rises from the seafloor. Not scattered rocks, not random geology. A platform. Geometric. Ordered. Rising from the sand like something that was built, not formed. He keeps diving. The structure gets bigger. What he is looking at stretches across hundreds of meters. Terraces, steps, walls made from enormous stone blocks, fitted together with precision. The deeper he goes, the more it looks intentional. Aratake photographs everything. He reports it to the authorities. He tells the press. The scientific community does not dismiss it immediately, because what he has found is visually impossible to ignore, regardless of what it actually is. The structures around Yonaguni cover several square kilometers of the seafloor off the island's southern coast. But the centerpiece, what researchers now call the monument, is what demands explanation. A massive stone platform, 200 meters long, 150 meters wide, 25 meters high. That is as tall as a 15-story building. On top of the platform, massive terraces drop downward in what look like deliberate steps, each one perfectly level, each edge remarkably straight. The architecture resembles the pyramid structures of ancient Peru, which is interesting because Peru is on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. Around the main structure, researchers found what appears to be a defensive wall made of enormous limestone blocks, some weighing several tons, and roads. Actual carved roads connecting different sections of the site. Professor Masaki Kimura from the University of the Ryukyus has documented evidence that some of the limestone blocks do not come from this area. They were transported here deliberately from somewhere far away. Kimura has found geometric markings carved into the rock faces. Deep circular holes, 2 meters across, cut into solid stone. Ornamental patterns, what appear to be carved images of figures with headdresses. And at 15 meters depth, divers discovered a sculpted stone face, 7 meters tall. Long arms, a crown, covered in coral and algae, but unmistakably human-like. Professor Masaki Kimura from the University of the Ryukyus has spent over 30 years studying Yonaguni. His interpretation is simple. This is not a natural formation. According to Kimura, Yonaguni is the remains of an ancient city, not a small settlement, but a complex. Pyramids, monuments, sculptures, a sophisticated structure that required advanced knowledge of engineering and stonework. Kimura has identified at least 15 similar structures around Yonaguni and Okinawa, all connected by what appear to be underwater roads and canals. He believes this was a single interconnected city, deliberately built, deliberately organized. The entire complex, he argues, was submerged during a catastrophic geological event, an earthquake powerful enough to shift the ocean floor, a massive tsunami that flooded the structures underwater in a matter of hours. It is a compelling narrative. A lost civilization, a city preserved by water, frozen in time beneath the ocean. When you look at the photographs of those carved faces, those precise platforms, those geometric patterns, it is easy to see why Kimura's theory gained traction. It is easy to believe that humans built this, that there was a reason for all this stonework, that it meant something. Kimura continues to dive. He continues to publish papers. He continues to believe that what he has found is proof of an ancient, advanced culture that existed on Okinawa thousands of years before recorded history. And he is not alone. A significant number of researchers, amateur archaeologists, and even some professionals have looked at the evidence and concluded that Yonaguni is artificial. There is just one problem. They cannot prove it. Here is where it gets complicated. Geological surveys of the region show that Okinawa sits on sandstone and mudstone formations. These rocks fracture in predictable ways. They erode in patterns. And when you understand how submarine geology works, a lot of what Kimura interprets as artificial can be explained by natural processes. The stepped appearance? That is consistent with how layered rock erodes underwater. The geometric patterns? They could be natural fracture patterns. The deep circular holes? Natural weathering creates exactly those kinds of features in sedimentary rock over millions of years. When geologists dive to Yonaguni, many of them see something completely different than Kimura sees. They see geology, natural formation, erosion patterns that happen without any human intervention. This is where the problem becomes clear. Both sides are looking at the same underwater structures and reaching opposite conclusions. Kimura sees evidence of human construction. Geologists see evidence of natural formation. And neither side can definitively prove the other wrong, because the evidence supports both interpretations. The scientific consensus, if you can call it that, leans toward natural formation. Most geologists believe Yonaguni is the result of erosion and fracturing. For decades, the academic world quietly closed the book on the underwater city. It was filed away as a curiosity, a case of pareidolia, the human tendency to see patterns and faces in random shapes. The mystery, it seemed, was solved. Case closed. End of story. Except, but then something unexpected happened. In the late 1990s, a geologist named Robert Schoch, a professor at Boston University, educated at Yale and Harvard, decided to see Yonaguni for himself. Schoch was a well-known skeptic. He had built his career questioning unconventional theories. He had publicly stated that Yonaguni was almost certainly a natural formation. And then he put on his scuba gear and dove. He descended to the sea floor, swam along the massive stone terraces, examined the straight edges with his own hands, touched the carved surfaces, studied the geometry, and when he returned to the surface, he said something that no one expected. Something that changed the entire conversation around Yonaguni. Professor Robert Schoch, the Harvard-educated skeptic, looked at the camera and said, "I cannot completely rule out the possibility that the monument was partially modified by human hands." A geologist who had spent his career doubting such claims admitted, publicly, that Yonaguni showed evidence of human work. He pointed specifically to the straight cuts, the perfect angles, the way certain stone blocks were shaped, things that nature should not be able to do so precisely. This did not mean Schoch was ready to declare Yonaguni a lost city. He still believed most of the formation was natural, but he could not ignore what he had seen with his own eyes. The straight cuts, the perfect angles, the evidence that something, someone, had been there, thousands of years ago, shaping the stone. The case was no longer closed. The question was open again. So, where does that leave us? Yonaguni sits in an uncomfortable space between proven and impossible. It is not a hoax. The structures are real. You can see them, photograph them, measure them. But it is also not a confirmed ancient city. There is no definitive proof of construction, no artifacts that prove human habitation, no historical records, no archaeological evidence beyond the structures themselves. The strange thing about Yonaguni is that it exists in this middle ground where both explanations seem possible, and neither is certain. Perhaps it was built by human hands thousands of years ago, a forgotten civilization consumed by a tsunami. Perhaps the ocean shaped it naturally over millions of years, and our eyes are simply seeing patterns that are not really there. Perhaps both are true. Perhaps neither. Off the coast of Okinawa, at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, 5,000 to 10,000 years of potential history sit in the darkness. Geometric, precise, unexplained. Professor Kimura still believes it is a city. Professor Schoch admits it might be. And the diving instructor who found it all, Kihachiro Aratake, is an old man now. He still takes his boat to that spot, still looks down into the blue water, still watches the ruins from the surface, waiting for someone to finally answer the question he discovered 40 years ago. Maybe someday we will know the truth. Maybe new technology will reveal what our eyes cannot see. Maybe a future expedition will find the evidence, a tool, an inscription, something that settles the debate once and for all. Or maybe Yonaguni will remain what it has always been, something we can see but not fully understand. A mystery at the bottom of the sea, waiting, silent, patient. In the next video, I will take you to another sunken mystery, the Baltic Sea Anomaly, a strange disc-shaped object resting at the bottom of the ocean that has been called everything from a UFO to a Nazi secret weapon to something that should not exist at all. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. God's blessings to all, friends.